Detectives are taking a closer look at new evidence in the search for Nancy Guthrie, 37 days now after she was abducted from her Catalina Foothills home.
This morning, Tucson marking 1 month since Nancy Guthrie went missing.
There's still a lot of hope out there.
4 weeks later, investigators still trying to piece together the unbearable mystery. According to FBI crime data, kidnappings involving seniors over the age of 80 are extremely rare, fewer than 1% of all abductions.
Somewhere in Tucson, Arizona, an 84-year-old woman is missing. No body, no confirmed location, no answers. But here's what makes this case unlike anything I've covered before. The person who was supposed to find her may be the very reason she hasn't been found. Because while a family is desperate for answers, while the FBI is circling, while volunteers with search dogs and drones showed up ready to help. According to reports, the sheriff in charge of this investigation was busy. Busy making statements he later couldn't back up. Busy, according to critics, sending critical evidence to the wrong lab. Busy, according to sources, turning away federal resources. Busy, allegedly, grounding the department's own search plane over a personal grudge. His name is Chris Nanos. He is the sheriff of Pima County. And tonight, we are pulling back every single layer. If you watched my last video, you already know what happened to Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie, the night she vanished. If you're new here, don't worry, I'll catch you up. But I need you to stay with me tonight, because what I'm about to show you goes far beyond a kidnapping. This is a story about power, about ego, about a man who, according to reports, was handed every tool he needed to find a missing grandmother, and may have fumbled every single one of them. Let's get into it. For those of you who are just joining this story, welcome. And I strongly recommend going back and watching my first video on this case, because what I'm covering tonight builds directly on that foundation. The link is right there in the description. But here is what you need to know. On the night of January 31st, 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie returned home to her residence in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson, Arizona, after having dinner with her daughter Annie and Annie's husband. She entered her home just before 10 p.m. And then, she was gone. The following morning, her family couldn't reach her. Something felt wrong. And when authorities were called to check on her, she wasn't there. But someone else had been. According to reports, doorbell camera footage captured something deeply disturbing. An armed individual appearing at Nancy Guthrie's front door the morning of her disappearance. This person, believed to be a man between 5'9" and 5'10" average build, was wearing a black 25-liter Ozark trail hiker backpack. But it wasn't just the weapon that alarmed investigators. It was something in his pocket. According to reports, a small antenna-like device, visible on the doorbell footage, caught the attention of investigators almost immediately. The working theory that has been raised? A signal jammer. A device designed to interfere with wireless systems. Surveillance. Communication. The kind of technology that doesn't end up in a criminal's pocket by accident. This was planned. Documents show that inside the property, forensic teams recovered mixed DNA. A glove containing DNA evidence was also found, roughly 2 miles from the home. And then came something that almost never happens in missing persons cases. Ransom notes. Sent to multiple news outlets. The FBI got involved. A reward of up to $100,000 was offered by federal authorities. According to reports, Savannah Guthrie's family went even further, announcing up to $1 million for information leading to Nancy's recovery. That is how desperate this family is. That is how serious this case is. And yet, weeks later, Nancy Guthrie has still not been found. Now, you might be asking yourself, with the FBI involved, with $1 million reward, with DNA evidence, with surveillance footage, with ransom notes, how is she still missing? That is exactly what we are here to answer tonight. And the answer starts with the man at the top. Chris Nanos is the sheriff of Pima County, Arizona. He is the man responsible for leading the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. And from the very first press conference, according to reports, something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. February 2nd. Just days after Nancy vanished, Sheriff Nanos sat down with NBC News. And according to reports, he told them with full confidence that Nancy had been abducted and taken from her bed. That is an extraordinarily specific claim. The kind of detail that only comes from evidence, from forensic analysis, from witness testimony, from something concrete. Except, according to reports, the very next day, February 3rd, Nanos withdrew the statement entirely. He acknowledged he had no evidence to support the claim. Critics have questioned how a sitting sheriff could make such a specific and alarming statement to a national news audience about the most critical detail of an active kidnapping investigation, without the evidence to back it up. Think about what that means. The moment those words left his mouth, the public narrative shifted. Media headlines ran with it. Savannah Guthrie's family, already terrified, absorbed that image. Their mother taken from her bed. And according to reports, it was a claim he could not substantiate. But that was just the beginning. As the investigation continued, according to reports, Nanos made another alarming statement to NBC News. He told the public, on record, that the suspect could absolutely strike again. Absolutely. That word matters. Because when a sheriff tells the public that a dangerous, armed kidnapper could absolutely strike again, that is a public safety warning. That sends a message. That puts an entire community on edge. And then, almost immediately, according to reports, his own department issued a follow-up statement directly contradicting him. There was, according to the Pima County Sheriff's Department's own statement, no updated public safety risk. Critics have questioned how the same department can issue two contradictory public safety assessments within the same investigation, and what that means for the community's trust in the people sworn to protect them. So which is it, Sheriff? Can this person absolutely strike again? Or is there no public safety risk? The people of Tucson, the people living near that Catalina Foothills neighborhood, deserve a clear, consistent answer. But here's where this story gets even darker. While scrutiny around the investigation grew, journalists began digging into Sheriff Nanos' own background. And according to reports, what they found raised serious questions. Documents show that Nanos had allegedly misrepresented his law enforcement employment history on his public resume. Records reviewed by reporters indicate that his departure from the El Paso Police Department, a piece of his professional background he presented publicly, came under circumstances he did not fully disclose. Documents show his resignation from the El Paso Police Department was connected to a list of disciplinary issues, including insubordination, excessive force, off-duty gambling, and tardiness. Now, I want you to sit with that for a moment. The man trusted to run one of Arizona's most high-profile missing persons investigations has, according to documents, a reported history of disciplinary issues at a previous department. A history that, critics have argued, he chose not to fully disclose to the public he now serves. But even the contradictions, the withdrawn statements, the questions about his background, is not the most damning part of this story. The most damning part is what he did, and what he refused to do, while Nancy Guthrie's clock was ticking. In any major federal investigation, there is a gold standard for forensic analysis. The FBI laboratory in Quantico, Virginia. It is one of the most sophisticated crime labs in the world. It is the resource that exists precisely for cases like this, high-profile, time-sensitive, complex forensic evidence. According to reports, when DNA evidence was recovered in the Nancy Guthrie case, Sheriff Nanos did not send it to the FBI lab in Quantico. He allegedly sent it to a private lab instead. Critics have questioned this decision, asking why, in a case this serious, with federal resources already deployed, with the FBI already involved, the sheriff would allegedly choose a private lab over the most equipped forensic facility in the country. There is, according to available reports, no publicly documented satisfactory explanation for that decision. Now I need to tell you about the United Cajun Navy. If you're not familiar, the United Cajun Navy is a volunteer search and rescue organization with a remarkable track record. They have deployed in disasters across the country. They bring search dogs, advanced drone technology, manpower, experience, and according to reports, when Nancy Guthrie went missing, they showed up. They came to Tucson with a 41-page operational plan. 41 pages. Detailed, coordinated, professional. According to reports, they brought dozens of search dogs ready to work, and drones ready to sweep terrain that ground teams couldn't reach. Critics have pointed out that Sheriff Nanos allegedly turned them away. A 41-page operational plan. Trained dogs. Advanced drones. Volunteers willing to work for free, for nothing except the chance to bring an 84-year-old woman home safely. Allegedly turned away. And critics have questioned, for what? Here is perhaps the detail that, according to reports, should disturb every single person watching this video tonight. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has a plane. A search aircraft. A resource that, in a missing persons case in a kidnapping investigation, could be one of the most powerful tools available. Aerial searches. Terrain coverage. Real-time surveillance. According to reports, the only deputy who knew how to fly that plane, was reassigned. Not, according to sources, because of budget cuts or departmental restructuring. Critics have alleged it was the result of a personal clash with Sheriff Nanos. A grudge. And according to reports, as a direct result, the department's search plane was effectively grounded during an active investigation into a missing elderly woman. Critics have also pointed to another troubling reality inside the Pima County Sheriff's Department. According to reports, the most experienced homicide detective currently on the force has just 3 years of experience. 3 years. According to sources, the veteran detectives, the seasoned, experienced investigators who built careers in that department, have left, resigned, moved on. Critics have alleged that the department's leadership environment under Nanos contributed to that exodus. Think about what that means for Nancy Guthrie's case, being handled by a department that, according to reports, has been hollowed out of its most experienced personnel. And according to reports, Sheriff Nanos is currently named as a defendant in a $1.35 million lawsuit filed by a former inmate alleging improper COVID-19 precautions at the Pima County Jail. This is the man running this investigation. This is the man the people of Pima County elected to protect them. This is the man, according to reports, standing between Nancy Guthrie and justice. Here is the question I keep coming back to. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She has been missing since January 31st. There is DNA evidence. There is surveillance footage. There are ransom notes. There is $1 million reward. The FBI is involved. And yet, she has not been found. And when I look at everything we have covered tonight, the statements he couldn't back up, the contradictions, the questions about his background raised in documents, the evidence allegedly sent to the wrong lab, the volunteers allegedly turned away, the plane reportedly grounded, the experienced detectives long gone. I have to ask the question that every journalist covering this story is quietly asking. How much time has been lost? In a kidnapping investigation, time is everything. The first 48 hours are critical. Every hour after that, the odds shift. Every missed resource, every questionable decision, every contradiction that muddies the public narrative, it costs something. And according to critics, in this case, those costs may have been paid by Nancy Guthrie. There is no easy way to say this. If the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance has been compromised, even in part, by the failures and the decisions of the man leading it, that is not just a political problem. That is a matter of life and death. The FBI is still involved. Federal pressure is mounting. The family has not stopped fighting. The public has not looked away. And neither will we. This case is still developing. There are details we do not yet know. There may be aspects of Sheriff Nanos's decisions that have explanations that have not yet been made public. But what we do know, what the records show, what reports indicate, what critics and sources have alleged, paints a deeply troubling picture of a law enforcement leader who, according to reports, was handed every tool he needed, and may have fumbled every single one. Nancy Guthrie is still out there, somewhere, and she deserves better. Now I need to hear from you, because this case is still active, still developing, and your voice matters. Based on everything we've covered tonight, do you think Sheriff Chris Nanos should be removed from this investigation? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one, and your perspective shapes the next video in this series. If you haven't seen my first video on the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping, it is linked in the description below. Watch it. It gives you the full foundation of everything we discussed tonight. And if this investigation, and the way it's reportedly been handled, makes your blood boil the way it does mine, hit that subscribe button. Because I am not done with this case. We are going to follow this story wherever it leads. Every update, every new development, every question that still doesn't have an answer. Because Nancy Guthrie's family deserves accountability. And accountability starts with people like you, who refuse to look away. I'll see you in the next one.